Hey everybody, welcome back. How was your day? How did we do today? Maybe a little busy, sort of a lot going on. You know, yesterday was definitely a really big program. I know that was a lot to be here for. And then today, we have too many good people together, so I think we have to do as much as we can. And we went through a ton of really wonderful ideas, and we're really grateful to hear from all of you. So this is our workshop report back. This is your report back. So it should be fun. This is the end of our program. We're really excited to hear from you all. But we want to give you all an opportunity to come up on stage, one person from each group, tell us what you learned and tell us how your day was. What were you talking about? What sort of things did you come into resolution on, and how was it for you? So the first group that we're going to bring up, we're going to go in order of the workshops from the day. And the first group that we'll have will be the group from CityScienceLab at Shanghai. They were here this morning, and they did their workshop on the SoCity Community DAO, a new process for pro-social urban development. So, presented to you by the CityScienceLab Shanghai, a report back on the SoCity Community DAO workshop. Come on up, Ryan.
Thank you for inviting me to the stage, and it was extremely exciting and also very, very inspiring workshop we have done in the morning. And thanks to the hard working of CityScienceLab Shanghai team, they have spent a lot of time to develop a tool as well as brainstorming the whole thing, what should be discussed. So SoCity DAO here is about how can we create an incentive policy that allow the community to negotiate with the developer to let them build more area so that they will have more profit, but a part of the profit should go to the community DAO. And further again, the DAO endowment, the trust, need to be decided by the community how to use it. And of course, we will ask them to use on the pro-social and pro-sustainable programs. On the left side, you can see the interactive tool. The community member can decide how do they want to vote for a building, if they want to allow how much building area to be built. And on the right side in the tool is about to vote what pro-social, sustainable program to use to be supported by the endowment. And after that, that was a tutorial, and then they do a sandbox game, which is involving 2 buildings and more flexibilities. And then they go through the game, and then they start to group discuss and have a collective result together. And then they discuss topics like if the final result of the group is satisfying for them, and also open discussions like if the whole process will work in their cities, so on and so forth. And we also collected a lot of nice feedback, questions, and improvements, they think, about the whole process. And it's just a starting point for rethinking how can we use technology, a new form of organization, to have the urban development more pro-social and pro-sustainable. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. The Shanghai team also had a whole workshop that they were running on Zoom in parallel to the workshop that they were running in person here. So it was really incredible, and we had a lot of folks also from that university participating. Thank you so much. All right, next up, the next group to come up and present, I think is the Guadalajara team, so get ready if it's you. Let's see. Yeah, so using eco-technologies to address food scarcity. This was presented by the CityScienceLab at Guadalajara. And come on up and tell us what you did, what you learned, and how did it go today. Thanks for being here.
Okay, well, our last presentation was about food security, which is not only about accessibility or food scarcity, but also it's about quality of food and availability regardless your economic, social class, also the season of the year, and mainly what can you do with these tools. So what we do is to present an eco-technology solution that we develop with the community in Guadalajara, a work that we develop in a co-creation step when we engage with the community and tell them how can we build a technology, a system that is simple for them, but at the same time they can use to solve a problem that they have. So we got together and designed this dehydrator, which is a system that they can use to preserve the food during the year. Also, during the presentation, we brought or expand Guadalajara's lab to Boston, and we let the participants to build their own dehydrators. We have a lot of fun, and the most important, they did it without instructions. So they proved that it was simple to build, and they could use it afterwards because it's very simple to carry on. Finally, we have a brainstorming activity when we ask the people what they can do with this hyperlocal solution with their own context in the cities. So we came up, for example, that we can use the same technology in Andorra when they can use it for tobacco dehydration, or also in Mongolia that there's a community that they are mainly nomads, and they use another eco-technologies such as fermentation to preserve food. At the end, we also ask for feedback. How can we improve our technology and make this better? We have very nice feedback from the other teams and labs, and we are going to work in this feedback to have more information about this. So right now, just I will introduce one of the participants who will take you a little bit about the takeaways of the workshop.
Yeah, so my name is Dominic. I was one of the participants in the workshop. Just to give a bit of a background, I come from an architecture background, so I don't really have that much experience with in these kinds of technologies. But I think it was a very useful workshop in general because it kind of exposed me to this area of food scarcity and like food waste and these problems that this particular community in Guadalajara was experiencing. And what the workshop taught me was that sometimes the simplest solutions are also the best solutions, and that in these communities, which do not have a lot of resources, sometimes the solutions can come from them as well. Like, part of the solution comes from communicating to them, like communicating with them about what their needs are and trying to create a solution that's simple enough for them to implement. So one of the examples that was mentioned during their presentation was that because of this technology, one of the community members actually created their own tomato drying business and sold their tomatoes, their dried tomatoes online. So I think that was my biggest takeaway from the workshop.
Just to end, we can tell you that also because of this workshop, we have tomato snacks after this presentation. So feel free to go to the terrace and enjoy the snacks that all the participants in the workshop have. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I second that. If you haven't been out to the terrace yet, that's something that you should do during the reception. You can check out all of those solar dehydrators. Okay, on to the next group. And we'll see who's next. I have an idea who it is. It might be the Taipei team. and we'll see what they discussed in their workshop today. I know that the focus for them was something related to rebuilding Kharkiv and also connecting that back to an earthquake that was in Taipei. So how does rebirth happen and how does that come out of disaster? What opportunities are there to rebuild our cities? So the team from the City Science Lab at Taipei, come on up to present Rebuilding Kharkiv, Acupuncture Zoning and Catalyst Society, 9/21 Earthquake Experience in Taiwan.
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Infant Chen from Taipei Tech, and I'm here to report what happened in our panels. No, it's a workshop, sorry. And yeah, so actually, when I got to know this summit has this, one of the mission is about, we were talking about rebuild Kharkiv, and we thought about in the past in Taiwan, actually we had a very serious earthquake back to the 1999. And because that's like a decade ago, but at that point, the government and the private sectors and even experts in Taiwan and also local people, all of us work together to go through this disaster and also this kind of very hard time for the reconstruction process. So we try to review lots of the paper and report talking about the last situation and do this kind of keywords analysis and figure out a certain kind of key points and strategies had been deployed in the process. So by the end, we try to here to provide like two most important strategies. One is urban acupuncture, and the other is the public-private partnership model. Yeah, and also we focus on the three specific acupuncture points. One is the lifeline, one is like how the organization, public and private, can work together, and the other is much more like a physical urban development and design. And so in our workshop, we suggest through groups of the people, and we suggest them can trying to explore if we are going to rebuild Kharkiv, what kind of urban acupuncture points we can use. And so during the process, and we also bring all these maps of Kharkiv, and Diana joined us, and she gave us a very good introduction about what happened to the city. And I think that's a very beautiful part that happened during the process of our workshop. And by the end, three groups, they all get very good report back to the big group. And we had a very good discussion. And for me and for our team, I think we learned a lot. Because for the first group, they mentioned about they want to start from the neighborhood and trying to bring all this kind of much more crucial lifeline back, and how to extend their influences to the entire city and even the entire country. And the second group, they start to ask a much more serious question about, we talking about the rebuild Kharkiv here, but it seemed like a lot of the participants, we didn't know a lot about Kharkiv before this summit. And so how could we really to say where could be the acupuncture sites or points we are going to do something, and what kind of influence that will be? So people start to talk about, go back to talk about how could we get to know what happened there and collect the like a local thoughts about the future of that city. And so the third group even pushed that discussion further to talk about the bottom up and top-down and bottom-up, different kind of approaches of the rebuilding process, and even question back to yesterday's panel about all this vision created by the Norman Foster team about how they want to build a science park in Kharkiv, but that group asked about, okay, so it seems like it's a top-down approach. How could you even include much more bottom-up dynamic to this kind of process, and even bring the local people to the entire participation process? And we got sorry, I forgot the name, but that's one person from the Norman Foster team, and he gave like a back and forth conversation about that. But I think it's still that's like an open-ending question here, but I think that's a very crucial question, and it's just take away not only for me, for our team, and also for everyone here to think about that. We don't know when the world will end yet, anytime, any points in the future. But I think based on yesterday's panel, we should be prepared for the reconstruction or rebuilding Kharkiv. But how could you really go onto the ground to do all this kind of work with the community layer? I think that's very crucial. And I wish maybe everyone, that's my takeaway point for especially this workshop and also in entire conference. And I think everyone, we can just think about that. And thank you for here. And yeah, thanks. Sorry to be too serious. Thank you.
Yeah, I so appreciate the critical thinking to look at these big problems and look at them really honestly, and then listen to the folks who are in your workshop regarding that feedback. So I know there was a lot of really incredible conversations that were happening in that workshop, and actually that's one of the reasons we decided we're not even gonna move to Q&A. We're gonna keep this nice and tight. It's because we wanna get back to the conversations that we can have when we join together in the reception. So appreciate that, thank you. Okay, next up, this was the MIT City Science team, and this was a collaboration with the Norman Foster Foundation. The workshop was titled Modeling a Science Neighborhood with case studies of Kendall Square, Cambridge, USA, and Kharkiv, Ukraine. Let's hear about your workshop and what you learned today.
Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Yeah. Well, this is very exciting. I'm Pavel from Guadalajara, Mexico, and she's Diana. She's a young and talented architect from Kharkiv, Ukraine, living in London now. And you may recognize her from the video yesterday. So,
the purpose of the workshop was to establish a vision and discuss the set of priorities for the science neighborhood in Kharkiv, which we've been hearing a lot yesterday about. And we've discussed a set of questions ranging from should the area be low density or high density? And if high density, what are the positive aspects of high density? Should we have walkable spaces? Should we have cars? Should we not have cars? How could tools like Cityscope, which we tried at the City Science group, which is really cool, you should try it out if you haven't, help shape us, the project. And Pavel will give you the insights into the findings and the conclusions.
thank you. Yeah, Diana. Next, please. Okay, well, the context here. The context that we had was Lord Norman Foster yesterday's lecture, in which we knew or learned a lot of things about the project. We knew, for example, that it was a new science neighborhood asked by the mayor of Kharkiv, that 1/3 of population in the city are students, were students, that only 20% of the population uses car, which means the transportation is very efficient, the public transportation. And that the place for this new neighborhood has been already selected from a range of, or amongst 3 or 4 different options. But there were a lot of questions and unknowns when we got to the problem and trying to solve the specific questions, right? Well, it was a very enthusiastic working session. We actually didn't fit in the room. There were a lot of people trying to participate there. We were 4 teams. And we actually got the time and the opportunity to go and see all the models and they explained to us how they work and how you've been experimenting with these Cityscope projects here in MIT. So we were thinking on this planning exercise. We thought that these are local solutions for a project of global impact, and we think that is very important. So we were, in all the process, moving through the different scales of the project, from a very specific thing to a very general and broad subject. And there were different approaches, as you can expect, from all the different teams. from a different and very philosophical approach to the kind of things that can happen there, to a very specific usage and programmatic usage that you can give to that space. Well, and everything is connected. We found a lot of different concepts that are connected, that are related to the solution that needs to be, that we need to keep working on. But we found that resiliency is a great concept and a very important concept in the context of all the conflict that is now happening there. We talk about something like walkability. We talk about the decision of high and low density, and we kind of decided that being what it is, or try to be, that is a magnet for talent, a magnet for attractive to investors, that will help in this new stage of Ukraine after the conflict, a place for innovation and creativity. We thought that the density was very important, so we can push for a high density, high rise. We initially thought that the high rise will be a good solution, but when we were then told that there was an ongoing discussion about the energy that is available there. So probably the height of the building, either if it is a high rise or a low rise, that is being discussed because of the availability of the energy. So there are a lot of constraints that we didn't know that are being discussed, but it was a very interesting exercise in which I think we kind of could agree on some of the basic concepts on this scale and this stage of the process, of the project. That's it. Thank you.
And yeah, we would like to give a special thank you to MIT, Media Lab, City Science Group, Norman Foster Foundation, Foster's family for working on this project and making this project possible and initiative. And yes, the war will be over and we will rebuild and we will rebuild together. So thank you, everyone.
And thank you to Laura and to Max who helped us prepare the presentation in 1 hour.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for being here, for sharing what you learned. You're discussing some of what you talked about in that workshop, and it really is about consensus building. And sometimes you are learning different things throughout the process that are changing the way you might think about your city or think about in a city in another place. So that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for joining us. Okay, next up, maybe some of you were in this workshop. We'll have someone come on up and do a report back. This is City Data Hubs. This was presented by the CityScienceLab in Toronto. I saw you guys here in the multi-purpose room today. You're a bit busy. Come on up. Hey, Hussein, tell us what you learned. Some other folks are joining. How was the workshop?
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We had a very engaging and collaborative session with Marcus and Ariel and a number of great participants. So first, we talked about what these data hubs are. We all know that there's a lot of data available in cities, in communities, but unfortunately, the way we work with this data and access this data is not very scalable. They are all very centralized. They follow different formats. They belong to different entities. Many of that data belong actually to citizens. So we really need to figure out how to actually use this data and come up with portability of data so it can be used. So we shared ideas about if we can store these data sets on a local community basis and really provide that transparency and explainability so communities can contribute to these data banks, then we can see values such as allowing parents to contribute and measure, let's say, the academic performance of their kids or contribute to the well-being of their communities. Then what we did, we looked at a case study. Some of you may be familiar with the project that failed in Toronto, Sidewalk Labs, owned by Google. We reviewed some of the reasons why it failed. We got some very good input from the participants. This is a picture of that announcement in 2017. Everyone was very excited that Sidewalk Labs is actually coming to Toronto, and this is 2 years later that the project failed. So it was a great case study to review on the reasons why it failed. the summary of that was, well, first of all, the province in which the project came to did not have a data and privacy policy. So imagine that you invite a company like Google and say, well, introduce your privacy policy. And that really didn't work out. So the first lesson was, if you want to commit to such projects, you have to have an idea and a framework on what your privacy guidelines are. The second takeaway was, this was a very high-risk, innovative project, but it was given to city councils to run it. And city officials are not usually being elected to do big innovations and take risks. It's actually the other way around. They are there not in order to not to take risks and remove risks. So there was also a disconnect there. And the third issue that came out was, this was a very big tech American company coming to Canada, and all our universities and researchers were like, well, if we are developing intellectual property, we want to keep the intellectual property in our community. Why is it going back to Silicon Valley? So really doing that stakeholder management to begin with, to make it more participatory, were things that we looked at. Then we actually started to create and hypothesize around a new city in Niagara Falls. We had the mayor, and we thought about a number of attributes in terms of what we can do if we want to do sidewalk done right. How do we bring the stakeholders on board? How do we bring the public entities, transportation? There's a university going to be set up there. And then we looked at different ways in terms of we can build a new city using data hubs in this particular area of the country. Before we share some of the surveys with you, maybe I can pass it on to Marcus and Ariel, and then I can take you through some of the data.
I actually thought in the case study of Niagara, where a new university is being implemented, several of the groups were actually very wary of the university intervention, because I think our experience in certain cities where universities cannibalize on housing, infrastructure, I had never realized how wary people are of this kind of intervention. That was my takeaway from that experience. So anyway.
So as part of that, we asked our attendees a number of questions. These are some of their answers, ranking the reasons that why sidewalk labs failed. As you can see, that stakeholder management and data privacy were the two key things that, that came up. Then we asked about what type of data sets are citizens are feeling more comfortable sharing with these data hubs. And as you can see, they were more comfortable sharing some profile information in exchange of values, but more reserved in terms of data that are closer to their financial status and income level. And these were all shared with them in a setting in which these data hubs are decentralized and owned on a ledger on a community basis, not on a centralized base, let's say, owned by big companies. This was an interesting one, because one thing we were looking at was that if you want to really elect an existing entity, which one do you think will have a higher chance of acting as your data co-op, so you can trust it to manage your data on your behalf? So similar to how you go to a bank and deposit a check, it's your money, you can withdraw it whenever you want. We were using the same analogy that you can deposit your data, and then based on some consent and smart contracts, you can allow that entity to manage it on your behalf. Originally, we thought perhaps a credit union or a bank could be a good candidate, but as you can see, a lot of our attendees, I think we had about 35 participants, they were basically highlighting their preference for a local non-for-profit to act as that entity. The last two questions, we asked about the types of technologies that may be required to build such data hubs. We intentionally did not start this workshop just making it too technology heavy, but we asked that if you want to build such systems, where are the areas of focus will be? And as you can see, it's around confidential computing, data privacy, things like blockchain, so you can basically manage the data locally rather than giving it to a centralized entity. And the last question was asking about some of the considerations that the attendees had to address some of the key challenges of building data hubs. This was a big list. I could only put a small screenshots here, but if you're interested in these responses, we will be more than happy to provide it. So a big thank you to all who participated, and a big thanks to the City Science team.
Wonderful, thank you. It's so interesting to see these real-world case studies. So I know both looking at the Sidewalk Labs project to explore what happened there, but also looking at Niagara Falls and having stakeholders from Niagara Falls in the room was a really important part of that workshop. So very interesting takeaways. Great to have you guys here and have you present. I think we might have missed one group, but let's go here. Let's go to Hamburg, and then we'll come back to you. I think Indora hasn't presented yet. But let's jump here. A lot of folks were in this workshop today, but some of us weren't. So we still want to hear about it. We'd love to hear what you learned and what you talked about. This is the City Science Lab at Hamburg, and the workshop was called Co-Creation and Mixed Realities, New Ways of Capturing and Curating Data. Come on up, Hamburg folks.
Yes. Thank you. This is
Sophia, nice to meet you.
And you are here because?
Because I was invited by Johanna.
Because you participated on that. Thank you very much. So I just hand you the microphone very much over so that you can talk about that. And I just want to say short words what I learned. First, this is what we wanted to, or that we were preparing to present to you, but we didn't. And this is because when I was finishing the presentation, the group team said we want to do something different. We want to do something participatory, and we want not to talk another presentation, and we want to do something with the people here, and it was such a good choice. Thank you for that, team, for having this, knowing this local, being local here, very, very good. And so what happened then is that we were sitting around the table, and they are working like hell to do within 2 hours that work that normally takes much more time. And finally then we started to be on the stage together and started to introduce this kind of serious game. So this is one of the methods that we are really trying to implement in the City Science Lab, is serious gaming, and using that also as a research method. And the issue that we had today is a heat wave that was really strongly coming, and we had only 15 minutes. You had only 15 minutes to find solutions. So there was very interesting solutions between some gangsters and the mayor, and they tried to do some dealing, some tried to do democratical ways, some tried to just having talks to and collaborate. A lot of collaboration was going on. And in the end of, I think, two times 15 minutes, we had very good solutions between both planners and citizens that had very good solutions. The first solution to the left is that they use the subways and just go underground and have a lot of shadows. There was another solution that was working very much with bringing water together. The first solution also had some kind of bringing the water out of the steam that is there. And the third solution was also a very building, constructive, collaborative thing. But the most important thing is that the people started to work and to talk immediately to each other, and were not listening to that and were taking on that role, what they had. And I think, what happened to you? Who were you?
I was a planner, and I was in the group that developed the water truck idea to the heatwave problem in Ifstadt. So our idea was to bring water from our neighborhoods by water trucks to the city.
And where did you take the water from?
We had the idea to lobby in Buckingham Place and just take their water.
So just from the next quarter. That's a good idea. And how was the collaboration? How was the collaboration with the citizens?
I think it was really good. I think we also had it when we did this little round that we as the planners first had kind of more long-term ideas of making infrastructural changes. But then when we talk to the citizens, we kind of got aware of their more immediate needs and kind of the things that they required of us now, and also their more like personal experiences that required immediate action somehow.
And maybe I give you the microphone for that. You're also a city scientist somehow, as I learned, because you can introduce yourself. And but I would be interested also to hear, or maybe that you can share, what is your impression of that kind of research possibility?
Thank you. Yeah, I found it quite interesting. I think it's a lot of fun and at the same time super challenging. And I really enjoyed this interplay between, on the one hand, being able to get creative and to talk with people and to source even very hypothetical ideas to the scenario. But then on the other hand, also being confronted with the real world constraints that also decision makers face at some point, and having also the team always reminding us, you have only 5 more minutes, you have only 2 more minutes. So I think that was really kind of, it made it feel real and brought in, I think, this serious aspect that you also said of like kind of using this as something to generate meaningful ideas that also kind of make us aware of the interactions in this like kind of micro environment that we have here, but also then how they could play out in bigger environments. And yeah, I think what I personally found, I think the most interesting was to see the different ideas of the different teams when we all introduced the ideas to ourselves, and also to kind of learn how the same scenario, somehow like the same task, could lead to such different trajectories and such different outcomes depending on the groups, depending on the role of the citizens, on the role of the planners. I think it was really interesting to also show the kind of multiplicities that such games can make us imagine. So yeah, thank you so much for hosting that.
Thank you for that, and thank you, team. And I also learned that we had a wonderful game moderator in our lab, so thank you for that also.
Great, thank you both so much. I think of this as a very playful lab, so I saw lots of folks building and very busy, but I like what you said at the end too, that you're really working to solve meaningful problems in a meaningful way. So both of those things make sense to me in that context. Okay, we're doing the last but not least report back of the day. This is the City Science Lab at Andorra, and the workshop was a biosphere reserve and living lab, finding ways to deliver positive and sustainable impact. Come on up, Jan.
Thank you. Well, hi, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone that came to the workshop. So basically what we did is we explained a little bit the context of Andorra. And I noticed that not much people knows about Andorra. It's normal. We're a really small country. For the ones that you know, we're right on the Pyrenees. We are between France and Spain. And what we did is we explained the concept of biosphere reserve, and we applied it to the context of Andorra, and then we also talked about the potential of a living lab in that area. So what we did on the workshop is divide people by stakeholder, and we gave them a prompt of creating synergies and how the context of the biosphere reserve and the living lab could work together to put up initiatives and try to find solutions to the functions of the biosphere reserve. So in here, what we did is that we divided people from in 4 stakeholders. One was society, the other one was government. Then we had the economic side, and then we had the research. And each team had to discuss their position. We informed them. We gave them information about what are each of these stakeholders looking for. And in the second part of the workshop, what we did is we actually moved them around, and we created 4 quadruple helix, like this one right here, where there was one stakeholder of each table together. And we gave them the prompt of putting out initiatives and to discuss their position. So it was a very interesting thing because we had many different interactions between the tables. There was people that were telling us about how the government was putting forward some initiatives on the biosphere reserve, and then society will put them down. Then we had research always going forward and pushing for innovation. I believe it was really, really informative, and it showed the great potential that both of these figures and both of these things have for the territory. And finally, I would like to show you this picture. I believe everyone was happy here. I think we have the best picture, honestly. and and also, I would like to give you my takeaway. I think that I'm pretty sure that for our team it was highly informative. We had some great initiative come up. We talked about the idea of eco co-working spaces, and I believe this is one of the main things that we took away from it. I want to say that we will probably share everything that came up of the workshop, so if you want to follow us or if you want to check it out, we'll definitely show it to you. And I just want to thank the MIT for hosting this event and for having us also. Okay, so thank you very much.
Okay, that's a wrap for the workshop report back. Give yourselves a hand. Congratulations, everyone. The City Science Labs have been pulling together this content for months now, and I think it totally shows. We really appreciate all of the work that all of the different people did to make this event happen and to have us have a really productive and inspiring day. We're grateful to you. Okay, one last thing. I will call up our director, Kent Larson, for some closing remarks.
Hey, I'm not really going to do any closing remarks because I need a glass of wine. So we're going to, it's waiting out there. But anyway, no, seriously, I feel so privileged to be working with all these amazing people, first of all, in the City Science group, but all the creative people from all over the world. You know, every city has different opportunities and challenges and culture and food and experiences, and we learn so much by being with all of you, so it's fantastic. I want to thank, first of all, my team for all their hard work, you know, preparing talks, doing these amazing graphics, helping to organize, working on all the different workshops, participating. But most importantly, I want to thank Maggie. Now, you know Maggie. You know Maggie is our master of ceremonies, okay? But she's the program coordinator for the group, and she has coordinated so much for this. You have no idea. I mean, everything from the catering to reserving the room to working with Laird and the AV team, sort of herding everybody to get all their talks in on time, and hundreds of other details I'll probably never know about. So thank you, Maggie. And I also want to thank Mr. Rubber. So Mr. Rubber is one of our greatest sponsors from Taiwan. And much of what we experienced was possible through the generous support of Mr. Rubber and from the PMP company. So I want to thank him, and he did something really special. He donated some gifts, and we're going to raffle them out there. And so you'll see on your table there is a QR code. So if you want to be in the raffle pool, you have to take out your phone and sign up. And let me tell you, these are not little throwaway gifts. These are some things you might really appreciate. I'll give you a little hint. Mr. Rubber's company works with companies like Apple and Bose. And so anyway, that's a little hint. All right. That's all I have to say. Thank you all for all this great work. I think there was great energy, and we just loved hosting this, and we'll do it again. Not too soon, but we'll do it again. So let's go out in the reception area and continue the conversation. Thank you.